Here are the headlines for Friday morning, August 23, 2024. Quinn, they have selected Kamala and this is their plan. The deep state has moved to Plan B, as their initial plan featuring Joe Biden is no longer viable due to his declining health and global embarrassment. They have selected Kamala Harris as the new candidate despite her unpopularity and lack of original thought or ideas. The regime media machine is in full propaganda mode to elevate her as a diversity queen who will lead the country to the promised land. To place her in the White House, they plan to flood the airwaves with negative ads about Donald Trump, praise Harris through their media outlets, limit her public speaking appearances, and rig polls to show her leading nationally and in swing states. If these efforts fail, they may resort to more extreme measures, including creating a false flag incident or declaring a national emergency to suspend elections. Trump's shooter had encrypted accounts in multiple countries' congressmen. A member of the United States House of Representatives task force investigating the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump revealed that the man who fired shots at him during a rally in Pennsylvania had encrypted accounts in multiple countries. The accounts were located in Belgium, New Zealand, and Germany. Representative Michael Waltz expressed concern over why a 19-year-old healthcare aide would need such platforms, especially those based abroad where law enforcement may struggle to access them. The task force is preparing to receive a briefing from Federal Bureau of Investigation officials on the agency's probe into the attempted assassination, which occurred on July 13. Thanks, Biden-Harris. Map shows worst housing affordability in America. The Biden-Harris administration has been criticized for its handling of the housing affordability crisis in the United States. Since taking office in 2021, housing affordability has collapsed to record lows, driven by high mortgage rates, tight housing supplies, and record high home prices. The administration's policies, dubbed Bidenomics, have failed to address the crisis effectively, instead championing demand-side subsidies that would worsen the situation by sending prices higher. Recent data from the National Association of Realtors shows affordability conditions remain at record lows despite moderating inflation. A state-by-state analysis reveals shocking unaffordability gaps, with Californians needing to earn over $200,000 annually to afford a basic home, and Massachusetts not far behind. Get woke, go broke. Disney cancels Gay Star Wars show after one season. Walt Disney Company's recent failure with its Star Wars series, The Acolyte, is attributed to the deliberate injection of third-wave feminism, woke ideology, and sexual fetishism into the story. Despite having a massive budget and creative control, the show was canceled due to poor reception from audiences. Woke activists claim that the show was sabotaged by review bombing from racists and misogynists, but in reality, the show simply failed to appeal to a wide audience. The cancellation of The Acolyte marks a turning point for woke content, as companies like Disney can no longer sustain financially unsuccessful shows with ideological messaging alone. Supreme Court allows Arizona to require proof of citizenship for state votes, but not for congressional or presidential. The state of Arizona passed a law requiring proof of citizenship for federal voter registration forms, but the Biden administration argued that this requirement is unnecessary, as federal law does not allow non-citizens to vote. A trial court judge blocked the Arizona law in 2023, prompting Republicans to appeal to the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit and request a stay on the decision pending their appeal. The Supreme Court of the United States has been asked to intervene in the matter, with Republicans arguing that the district court's injunction undermines Arizona's authority to determine voter qualifications and structure participation in its election. Prepare for an era of shock events, World Economic Forum's Klaus Schwab warns. The World Economic Forum, WEF, led by Klaus Schwab, is orchestrating global crises to implement a new world order. The WEF has infiltrated governments and altered the left side of politics in Western nations. They have warned of an era of shock events, including multiple major wars, leadership decline, and the implementation of artificial intelligence and terrorism. The forum also warns of massive cyber attacks on banks, hospitals, and retailers, leading to a halt in worldwide services. Additionally, they predict an island nation will be lost to climate change, which will be used as a justification for climate hysteria and further control over the population. Taxpayer-funded Oregon group offers $30,000 to home buyers, as long as they're not American citizens. A taxpayer-funded group in Oregon called Hacienda Community Development Corporation is offering $30,000 in home assistance loans to non-citizens, including undocumented immigrants, through a program called Camino a Casa. The organization receives millions of dollars in state and federal funding, and the loan program is not available to American citizens. Critics argue that this type of incentive is an attempt by progressive institutions and politicians to buy a new voting base and secure citizenship for illegal aliens through amnesty bills. This development comes as California is pushing a bill to give illegal aliens access to zero down, no payment home loans, further exacerbating the housing shortage and inflation crisis in the United States. To avoid Department of Justice entrapment, Trump says he doesn't want intelligence briefings. Donald Trump stated that he does not want briefings from United States intelligence agencies because it could lead to him being accused of leaking classified information. He expressed concern that the intelligence community would leak sensitive information and then blame him for it, citing past experiences as a reason to avoid these briefings altogether. This move is unusual, as presidential nominees have typically received regular intelligence briefings since President Harry Truman introduced them in the early 1950s. Trump's decision also comes after the Biden administration barred him from receiving intelligence briefings when they took control in 2021. Watch live. Federal Reserve Chair Powell delivers Jackson Hole speech. Bank of America notes that while the battle on inflation is not entirely won, the emphasis may now shift towards preventing undesired weakness in the labor market. Barclays analysts highlight investor concerns about the Federal Reserve being behind the curve, with the balance of risks tilted towards the employment mandate. Market participants are seeking clarity around the new equilibrium policy rate and the path to that rate ahead of Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell's speech at the Jackson Hole Conference, which has historically been a market-moving event. Cooperatives 2 blocks from Central Park really selling for $174,000. The city of New York is selling apartments in the Upper West Side 2 blocks from Central Park for as low as $173,801 through a lottery system. The 17 studio and 1-bedroom units are available to New Yorkers earning under 120% of the area's median income, with assets under $280,000. Households of 2 can apply if they earn up to $149,160, or 3 can apply if they earn up to $167,760 for a 1-bedroom unit. The apartments must be the buyer's primary residence and come with resale restrictions and a 5% down payment required. With merit back at the fore, Massachusetts Institute of Technology's black enrollment plummets. Asian share leaps. The Massachusetts Institute of Technology's incoming freshman class of 2028 reflects the impact of the Supreme Court's 2023 decision to ban affirmative action. The proportion of spots given to black students has decreased sharply from 15% in the previous year to 5%, while Asian enrollment has increased from 40% to 47%. Hispanic and Latino students comprise 11% of the class, down from 16%. MIT President Sally Kornbluth expressed sorrow over the lack of diversity in the class, implying that she would have preferred a different demographic makeup if affirmative action were still allowed. United States electric vehicle adoption by state. In 2023, sales of electric vehicles passed the 1.6 million mark. According to data from the United States Department of Energy and the United States Census Bureau, California has the highest number of electric vehicles, with over 1 million. When considering electric vehicles per 100,000 people, California also leads, followed by Washington, Hawaii, and Oregon. In contrast, Mississippi has the fewest electric vehicles proportionally, with only 110 electric vehicles per 100,000 people. It's not okay anymore. United Kingdom free speech crackdown targets extremist ideologies. The United Kingdom is experiencing a crackdown on free speech as officials use recent rioting to justify arrests of citizens who hold views deemed extremist or hateful. The government has ramped up its efforts to target those accused of misogynist views, and Home Secretary Yvette Cooper has vowed to crack down on people pushing harmful and hateful beliefs. This trend has been ongoing for years, with numerous examples of individuals being arrested and convicted for speech-related offenses, including sending a tweet while drunk wearing an anti-police t-shirt, and sing a song with lyrics deemed offensive. The government's actions have sparked concerns among free speech advocates, who argue that the UK is sliding down a slippery slope towards censorship and authoritarianism. New Taliban vice laws forbid women from looking at men, singing in public, solo travel. The Taliban government in Afghanistan has issued its first formal vice laws, which include sharp restrictions on the conduct of women, 3 years after taking power following the United States military withdrawal. The 114-page document, comprising 35 articles, was approved by Supreme Leader Hibatullah Akhundzada and focuses on promoting virtue and eliminating vice. Women are required to be veiled in public, prohibited from looking at men unless they are married or blood relatives, and barred from letting their voices be heard singing or reading aloud in public. The laws also dictate that women cannot travel alone and must be segregated from unrelated men during transportation. Additionally, the Taliban has inherited a vast arsenal of United States military equipment, including Black Hawk helicopters, a 29 Super Tucano attack aircraft, and armored Humvees. Russia's military says it destroyed United States M1 Abrams tank in Kursk. Russian forces claim they have destroyed a United States-made MON Abrams tank used by the Ukrainian army on Russian territory, according to Major General Apti Aladnov. This is the first reported destruction of an Abrams tank since the August 6 Kursk incursion. The Russian general stated that everything is under control and the enemy has not attempted any active combat operations today, while they have destroyed about 10 items of equipment, including pickup trucks and the Abrams tank. Protests, pandering, past presidents, but no policies, summing up the 2024 Democratic National Convention in 2 words: not Trump. Kamala Harris targeted former President Donald Trump at the Democratic National Convention, criticizing him for his role in the January 6th United States Capitol breach, appointing conservative majority Supreme Court justices who overturned Roe v. Wade, voting the idea of closing the United States Department of Education, and a recent Supreme Court ruling that gives presidents presumed immunity for act. Harris's speech was met with criticism from Trump, who asked why she did not do something about these issues during her time as vice president. Meanwhile, former Speaker Nancy Pelosi stated that Harris has no reason to deviate from President Biden's policies, which may include more government spending and disastrous green energy policies. This is the chart that keeps Japanese policymakers up at night. Japan is facing a severe demographic crisis due to its rapidly aging population, with the highest old age dependency ratio among the top 10 economies at 54.5. This means that fewer workers are supporting a growing number of retirees, putting pressure on social security systems, healthcare, and pension funds. By 2050, Japan's old age dependency ratio is expected to rise to 80.7, while other countries such as Italy and China will also face significant increases in their ratios. In contrast, India has the lowest ratio at 11.6 due to its young population, while the United States has a relatively low ratio of 31.3. Federal Bureau of Investigation chief warns of unprecedented rise in security threats. The Federal Bureau of Investigation is facing an unprecedented combination of security threats, including terrorism, cybercrime, foreign election interference, and espionage activities by adversarial powers, according to FBI Director Christopher Wray. The agency is deeply concerned about the simultaneous rise in these threats, which include Chinese espionage and intellectual property theft, foreign election interference, artificial intelligence-enabled threats, and terrorism. Better cooperation between law enforcement agencies and the tech industry, particularly in developments around cutting-edge artificial intelligence, are seen as key to confronting this security landscape. The tale of two conventions, Newt Gingrich. The 2024 Democratic and Republican National Conventions were indicative of profound changes in American politics and government. The Republican convention represented a party reflecting its voters' wishes, while the Democratic Party was firmly controlled by its leaders and focused on continuity of power. President Trump's emergence changed the fabric of the Republican Party, shifting power from the old guard to a new movement initiated by Republican voters, with the MAGA movement now at its core. In contrast, the Democrats in Chicago represented a party that was top-down, using machine tactics to avoid change and maintain power, as seen in their handling of President Biden's withdrawal from the presidential nomination process. Fast food restaurants fight to keep customers as food and wage costs spike. The state of California increased its minimum wage for fast food employees to $20 per hour in April, following a growing trend of states mandating higher labor costs. This move has resulted in the closure of 1,040 fast food restaurants in the state over 4 months, with many others looking to invest in automation to increase worker efficiency and cut staffing levels. The increased wage has made it difficult for employers to hire lower-skilled or entry-level workers, as they are hesitant to take on the cost of teaching them new skills. The fast food industry is also facing an increasingly cost-conscious consumer, making it challenging for restaurants to keep menu prices down while maintaining speed and efficiency in their service. Tech education is taking off, and it's not your dad's shop class anymore. Researchers have found that career technical education programs can produce strong results for high school students, particularly in terms of graduation rates and employment outcomes. A study of Connecticut's 16 dedicated CTE high schools showed that male students who participated in the program were 10 percentage points more likely to graduate than their peers and had 44% higher total earnings after graduation. Another meta-analysis involving 28 studies across multiple states found large positive effects on high school graduation, 2-year college enrollment, and employment. However, some CTA programs still lack quality, failing to provide a sequence of courses that allow students to build skills in a particular field or offer pathways that go beyond basic trades. China steel mill profits collapse. Goldman issues bleak outlook for iron ore. The global commodities market, particularly iron ore, is experiencing a significant downturn due to soft demand from China's property sector and steel industry. Baowu Steel Group chairman Hu Wangming warned that the economic conditions in China feel like a harsh winter, with a potential downturn similar to those seen in 2008 and 2015. A team of Goldman analysts, led by Aurelia Waltham and Dayan Struven, reported that iron ore prices are below $100 per ton, with visible stocks remaining elevated and mills destocking, indicating a negative production outlook. Only 1% of Chinese steel mills are currently profitable, according to a Misteel survey, and the property market slowdown continues in China, with consumption soft and global supplies still elevated. America's energy divide: how Democrats and Republicans feel. A recent Pew Research Center survey of over 8,500 United States adults found that there is a significant partisan divide in opinions on expanding various energy sources in the country. The survey revealed that Democrats are generally more supportive of investing in renewable energy sources, such as solar and wind power, while Republicans are more supportive of expanding fossil fuel use and nuclear energy production. The smallest partisan gap was found to be 18 percentage points for nuclear energy expansion, with 56% of United States adults surveyed supporting it. New Boeing whistleblower documents reveal confusion and chaos at factory that built two doomed 737 MAX plane. Boeing is facing renewed scrutiny over the production of its 737 MAX planes after new documents revealed confusion and chaos at the company's factory in Renton, Washington, where two jets that later crashed were built. The crashes, which occurred in 2018 and 2019, killed a total of 346 people. A prominent whistleblower, Ed Pearson, claims that production issues from that time period still affect MAX planes flying today. The new documents show multiple electrical issues with the Ethiopian Airlines jet that crashed in 2019, including an in-flight safety incident months before the fatal accident, which Boeing attributed to an electrical error. Defense budget talks reignite debate over military draft for women. A provision in the fiscal year 2025 National Defense Authorization Act that would require women to register for the military draft has sparked debate among combat veterans and enlisted personnel about its wisdom and likely impact. The bill, which authorizes funding of $911.8 billion for the military, includes an exemption that would prevent women from being drafted into frontline combat roles. However, some argue that drafting a small number of women to serve in non-combat roles could help address the personnel shortfall and maintain high standards for men who do take on frontline combat roles. Others are concerned about the practical challenges of upholding standards while incorporating larger numbers of women into the armed forces, and suggest that adjusting physical standards may be necessary. Suezmax tanker crew forced to abandon ship after missile attack in Red Sea. A Greek-flagged oil tanker, the MV Sunion, was attacked in the South Red Sea area, resulting in engine failure, and its crew of 29 was rescued by a European Union naval vessel dispatched by UNAVFOR, ASPIDE. The operation destroyed an unmanned surface vessel that posed an imminent threat to the ship and the crew. The tanker, carrying 150,000 tons of crude oil, represents a navigational and environmental hazard, and is currently drifting in the area. Who is destroying democracy in darkness? The 2023 to 2024 campaign season is the most anti-democratic on record, marked by efforts to neuter Donald Trump's third presidential bid through various means. The Democratic Party has used anti-democratic tactics such as collusion, disinformation, deballoting, and lawfare to target Trump. Multiple federal, state, and local prosecutors have filed felony charges against Trump that are unlikely to have been filed had he not run for office. President Joe Biden and his administration have also made public statements and taken actions that could be seen as prejudging the outcome of these cases. Meanwhile, Biden's poll numbers collapsed, leading to a forced removal from the campaign trail and replacement with Vice President Kamala Harris without an open convention contest or vote. Stocks and bonds slammed ahead of Jackson Hole as Fed speak slows rate cut euphoria. Today's market action was influenced by less optimistic comments from Federal Reserve members, known as Fed speak, which walked back expectations of 4 interest rate cuts, and disappointing macroeconomic data that revived growth concern. Notably, jobless claims remained at multi-year highs. Existing home sales experienced a small increase but are still off record lows with high prices, and the Chicago Fed's National Activity Index saw a significant decline. Additionally, manufacturing sentiment surveys were weak. These factors combined to lead stocks, bonds, and gold lower while the dollar rose. Rate cut expectations fell but remain elevated, and Treasury yields increased across the curve. Life in a sound money world. Pretend it's 1971 and President Richard Nixon decides to balance the budget and keep the United States on the post-World War II Bretton Woods quasi-gold standard instead of closing the gold window. This decision would have led to a sound money world with different outcomes over the past half-century, including asset prices valued in terms of gold rather than dollars. Stocks, for example, would be virtually unchanged since 1971 when valued in gold, with more muted and less disruptive fluctuations. The United States economy would actually be smaller than it was in 1971, and oil prices would have decreased by almost 2/3. Housing would also be more affordable, with lower rents and higher home ownership rates among younger generations. Kiev's plan to ban the Ukrainian Orthodox Church shows how insecure it is about national identity. Kiev is planning to ban the Ukrainian Orthodox Church by mid-next year if it doesn't sever ties with the Russian Orthodox Church, despite the Ukrainian Orthodox Church declaring full autonomy from the Russian Orthodox Church in early 2022. The Ukrainian government accuses the Ukrainian Orthodox Church of being under the sway of the Russian Orthodox Church and wants to replace it with the Orthodox Church of Ukraine, which was recognized as autocephalous by the Ecumenical Patriarchy in 2019. The Ukrainian government sees the Ukrainian Orthodox Church as a threat because many Ukrainians refuse to conform to the negative nationalism that Kiev has enforced since 2014 by continuing to worship at Ukrainian Orthodox Church sites instead of the government-backed Orthodox Church of Ukraine. Canadian Labour Minister puts end to National Railroad strike, orders arbitration. The Canadian government has intervened in the freight rail work stoppage by sending the dispute between Canadian National, Canadian Pacific, Kansas City, and the Teamsters Canada Rail Conference to binding arbitration. Labor Minister Stephen McKinnon made the move, stating that the parties are at a fundamental impasse and it is his duty to secure industrial peace and deliver solutions in the national interest. The existing contracts will be extended until new agreements are signed, and while negotiations are always preferable, the needs of the nation outweighed the need for a contract deal reached at the bargaining table. Canadian National has ended its lockout and initiated its recovery plan, while Canadian Pacific Kansas City is preparing to restart operations. However, the Teamsters Canada Rail Conference will maintain picket lines while reviewing McKinnon's move and seeking legal counsel. No Israeli withdrawal, no ceasefire deal, Hamas. The Palestinian Islamic Jihad movement and Hamas have released a joint statement rejecting any agreement that does not include an Israeli withdrawal from the Gaza Strip. The two groups stress the need for a comprehensive cessation of aggression, complete withdrawal from the Strip, start of reconstruction, and end of the siege with a serious exchange deal. They also call for immediate delivery of humanitarian aid to Gaza, warning of consequences if Israel continues its collective punishment. This statement comes as new ceasefire talks are set to begin, with Hamas not attending. The United States has proposed a new plan, which Washington says Israel has agreed to, but Hamas has rejected it for failing to address their demands. The monkeypox epidemic. In Africa, the World Health Organization declared an international public health emergency in response to a surge in cases of mpox, formerly known as monkeypox, particularly on the African continent. The cause is a new strain, clade, which is feared to be highly transmissible and has resulted in almost 18,000 suspected or confirmed cases in the Democratic Republic of Congo between January 1st and August 16th, with 535 people losing their lives over the same period. The perpetual struggle of libertarian candidates, why they face an uphill battle. The Libertarian Party has consistently struggled in American politics since its founding in 1971, failing to achieve significant success despite advocating for individual liberties, limited government, and free markets. Due to the challenges of securing funding and media coverage as a third-party venture, libertarians face an uphill battle. In reality, Republicans lean more towards libertarianism than Democrats, particularly on issues such as limited government spending, taxation, and free market economics, although they differ significantly on social conservatism and military interventionism. To achieve greater success, libertarians may need to moderate their message or form coalitions with like-minded organizations. Judge dismisses lawsuit from disabled workers against Elon Musk's ex-United States District Judge Araceli Martinez-Olguin dismissed a lawsuit against social media platform X brought by people with disabilities who were fired by the company after Elon Musk bought it. The plaintiffs, including Dmitry Borodenko and Hannah Thier, claimed that the firings violated the Americans with Disabilities Act by treating disabled workers differently from others. However, Martinez-Olguin ruled that Borodenko failed to provide evidence to support this position and that his theory relied on the assumption that all employees with disabilities required remote work as a reasonable accommodation. The judge also stated that Musk's comments may contribute to a showing of animus, but they do not illustrate how the new return to the office and increased workload policies treated employees with disabilities differently than similarly situated employees. Tangled comparisons, renewables versus fossil fuels. The production cost of renewable electricity is high, but subsidies have made it competitive in the market. However, these subsidies are not free and are ultimately borne by consumers through higher rates. The justification for massive subsidies to reduce carbon dioxide emissions is flawed, as reducing American emissions will have little effect on a global scale. Additionally, the cost of removing carbon dioxide through wind or solar power is high, at over $300 per metric ton. In contrast, carbon offsets can be purchased for as little as $10 per ton. Ukraine should join North Atlantic Treaty Organization, even if Russia occupies its land, Czech Republic President says. Czech President Petr Pavel is urging the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, to expedite Ukraine's admission into the Western Military Alliance despite an ongoing conflict in the country. Pavel believes that full control over Ukrainian territory should not be a prerequisite for membership, citing West Germany's accession to NATO in 1955 as an example, even though part of the country was occupied by the Soviet Union at the time. However, this approach ignores the fact that Article 5 of the NATO treaty, which requires member countries to come to each other's defense in case of an attack, would automatically trigger a major war between Russia and the alliance if Ukraine were to join. The city says oil buying opportunity may have finally arrived. Oil prices have dipped, with Brent crude hovering around $77 per barrel due to easing geopolitical tensions and China's economic slowdown, but some market analysts see potential short-term buying opportunities. City Research warns that despite the calmer geopolitical landscape, risks remain, including hurricane season and ongoing tensions in North Africa and the Middle East, which could reignite volatility. The current market positioning is historically short, which could spur a rebound if Brent dips further, especially as it nears the $75 per barrel support level. Futures jump ahead of Powell's Jackson Hole speech as dovish expectations fly. The French Services Purchasing Managers Index rose to a two-year high of 55.0 in August, exceeding expectations of 50.3. Meanwhile, sovereign bonds in Europe followed a similar pattern to those in the United States, with yields on 10-year bonds, OATS, and BPS and BPs increasing by 5.4 basis points, 5.4 basis points, and 5.9 basis points, respectively. This came as investors reduced their expectations for European central bank rate cuts this year, with the amount of cuts priced by the December meeting decreasing by 3.7 basis points to 65 basis points. Lily back to Athens. Checking in on the obesity theme. Some argue that Glucagon-Like Peptide-One is the most important technology in the world right now, even more important than artificial intelligence. The demand and total addressable market for Glucagon-Like Peptide-One are significant, with companies like Eli Lilly experiencing all-time highs in stock value, nearing $1 trillion in market capitalization. Riding the hot artificial intelligence derivative trade, regular readers of the Marketeer TME are familiar with the long utilities logic outlined earlier this year. This artificial intelligence derivative play has continued moving higher, outperforming the real thing, also known as the underlying asset or security. Risk-reward is not compelling right here. Goldman's hedge fund head sees challenges to the bullish thesis. Tony Pasquariello, head of hedge fund coverage at Goldman Sachs, offers cautious market insights as the summer comes to an end. With humility and open-mindedness, he acknowledges the recent volatility and looming challenges in the next few months. His comments may not reassure those expecting a quick rebound for bears and for bulls. The biggest down candle since the market rally started has occurred, but the NASDAQ's significant high is still far away. It is crucial to closely monitor this situation as it may prove to be a lower high, which could have significant implications for the market. United States stocks retreated and yields gained after mixed data, and as markets await Powell at the Jackson Hole Symposium. Newsquawk offers 2 steps to access its services: subscribing to free pre-market movers reports and trialing its premium real-time audio Newsquawk box for 7 days. The platform provides notable headlines, data recaps, and updates from various regions, including the Middle East.